Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. This is JTrain, Jared Freid, coming to you live from the West Village, Manhattan. That's right. Every Wednesday is a Chit Chat Wednesday. I'm going to do these little intros to get us into the episode, kind of introduce our guests. Today I have Nora Princiotti. I am so excited to have Nora on the show. She was fantastic. I'm taping this the night before it releases, but we taped it last week, and you know, I listened to her on the Ringer NFL show and love her vibe there, love the way that, and that show, the NFL show, kind of has like a changing cast of characters, and it's always a good like lead into the football week or a wrap up of the football week. And then I follow her on Instagram, we follow each other, and just from afar you see this other pop culture side of Nora that she talks about Taylor Swift a lot and pop stars. And I had this reoccurring thought about Taylor Swift and the direction of pop and why Taylor's as huge as she is. And they were all dumb, theories of mine. So I thought, wow, let's have someone who loves Taylor come on, who appreciates her, who sounds like, because we've never spoken before, that I can kind of toss some things to her and she can toss them back to me and say, Jared, you're a stupid idiot, or I see where you're going there. And we had a really fun talk. And so I want you to check out today's episode. I want you to go follow Nora. She was fantastic. Sometimes you talk with someone for the first time, you're like, I don't know, nice to meet you, but maybe we won't do this again. I think she is so good. It's such a great episode. So enjoy the conversation. Let me know if you kind of see where I'm coming from. If not, that's okay too. Let me know if you totally disagree. Obviously, I don't want you to, yell at me, but, let me know what you think. Because I thought it was just a fun conversation about like, what is fame and who do we follow and who do we see ourselves through. I'm making it more than it is. It's me being an idiot and Nora being very smart and having an incredible amount of knowledge about Taylor Swift. She has a podcast as well called Every Single Album, where she went over Taylor Swift's albums, and it's turned into this more pop culture, pop music podcast. So if you like our conversation, you'll love the other stuff that Nora does, the NFL show, but especially because this is something, we talk about pop stars is Every Single Album. So go listen to that podcast, subscribe, and enjoy today's episode. Boom. Welcome to the new JTrain podcast. Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. This is JTrain, Jared Freid, coming to you live from the West Village of Manhattan. We're here every Wednesday for a Chit Chat Wednesday. I chit chat with a friend about whatever's on our minds. And today, a new guest of the JCU, the JTrain Cinematic Universe. She is the co-host of the Ringer NFL show, as well as Every Album, the Taylor Swift podcast that you can go listen to right now. Nora Princiotti, thank you for coming on.
Hi, Jared. Thank you for having me. It is actually Every Single Album.
I knew I was saying it wrong. Every time I said it, because I have it in front of me. Every Single Album. Tell people
jokingly and lovingly Every Album Ever, which is something that like somebody who listens to it a lot used to like tweet that at me a lot, and it just really stuck in my head. So it can have any name, really.
It's a Taylor Swift. Explain Every Single Album, Every Album Ever. Explain it to the listeners here.
Here's the deal. When we, and by that I mean myself and my co-host Nathan Hubbard, when we started Every Single Album, it was early 2021. And the original idea was that we, both being big Taylor Swift fans, but coming at it from different perspectives. I am 30 years old. I grew up with her. I love her. I am your typical Taylor Swift fan, for better or for worse. And then Nathan, who has kids a little younger than me, but kids who grew up with Taylor, and is also someone who has been in the music industry in various roles for a long time. The two of us had this idea where we would go through every single Taylor Swift album, one by one, an episode per album, and just do deep dives. And we had a lot of fun with it, and that was a really, really great experience, and people liked it. So we started doing some other artists. We went through the One Direction discography. We did Adele at one point, and it has kind of morphed into this thing where we cover Taylor Swift whenever there is something with Taylor Swift to cover, but we also cover most of the pop girly album zeitgeist, such as it is. So it's had a couple of different lives.
I love this. I am like, my life for some reason or another is like girl pop adjacent. I like to think of myself as, I somehow end up being a straight man in a woman's world in a lot of the things that I do.
It's beautiful.
And which I actually love. And I think of it as I have a lot of fun with it, and I get to just ask questions. And then I have my theories, and then sometimes if I post those theories online, I'll get it's a little bit of a tight wire walk, because I never want to sound like old white dude telling people making fun of people, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it as like,
it's like you have a little bit of an insider perspective, but a little bit of an outsider perspective, and sometimes those things are hard to balance.
Right, and I think on the internet, if people want to see the worst part of you, they can make it bad. But like I remember when her tickets came out, Taylor Swift, for the Eras tour, and then like the internet stopped working, and I made a video about like, hey men, today's not the day. You just don't want to mess with your girlfriend today. Like, no, she's not on her period. The website went out. Like, I made this whole video, and it was in good fun. Like, my comedy life is
like, I live on the Upper East Side, and I remember that day I had been like in the queue for hours and hours and hours, and like everyone's texting, everyone's upset, and I took a walk because I need a moment, and I'm walking like by the Met, and there's this woman who looks like the richest woman on the planet Earth. She's wearing like furs. Just like, how sometimes New York women are wearing fur, and it's like, this only happens here.
Right. You see the Upper East Side woman, you're like, that is everything I would draw an Upper East Side woman to be.
Yeah.
There's also
she's
like
got the Birkin,
everything, and done up, and almost like a painting. There's also the other brand of woman where like she's going through the trash, and I always go, for a second I go, that's probably the richest woman alive. She like goes through the trash every day. I have that thought too, but I know who you're talking about.
But so this is one of the first kind. And this woman is walking down the street, and I hear her on the phone being like, what can we do? Who can we call? What can we do about the Taylor Swift situation? I was just
Love it.
Okay, if this woman is going through it, I guess, like, frankly, then there's no hope for me, is what I should take away from this. But to your point, it was a difficult day for a lot of people.
Who can we call? That's a powerful woman who knows powerful people.
Yeah, like people who probably means like people who own football stadiums.
Right. They which stadium do we own that I can get the best ticket at? When you start the podcast in 2021, like Taylor's big, but it's a different version of big, right? Like that's not Taylor now.
We started the pod. Gosh, am I getting this right? I'm pretty sure I am. We started the pod before Folklore and Evermore. So it's kind of this funny thing where like the reason we wanted to do it is I had spent like years of my life really, my central cause was like people are not taking Taylor Swift seriously enough.
And that's a real opinion in 2021 where she was kind of like pushed off to this like, oh, she just writes about breakups, right?
Yes. And I think some people had come around, but it was still, I just felt like, I really felt like it started when the situation with the masters, the master recordings, and her getting involved in kind of the business side of her career and people understanding how involved in the business side of her career she was. There were a lot of like, I lived in Boston and I was single and I was going on a lot of like Hinge dates. And I'm serious. One of the things where I was like, oh, something's happening here is that they're just all of these like dudes who were, junior consultants at wherever were like, what's happening with Taylor Swift? Like, what's the deal? I see it's like she owns the copyright. What's she trying to do here? And I had a note. I had like a notes app note saved on my phone that was like, here's your primer on the career of Taylor Swift and
Right.
why it matters more than you think. And so this was like really important to me. That's so embarrassing, but it is true. And that was why like we started the pod from that perspective. And then a year later, it's post Folklore. It is post like those two albums, Folklore and Evermore, kind of owning quarantine. And then also because she had done the folky Aaron Dessner and the National thing, which a lot of bros do like. There was this, it like everything changed. And so we became part of this huge celebration of her. But it was very funny because it changed very quickly from like people, no, seriously, this woman is more impactful in culture than you realize, to everybody takes Taylor Swift super seriously.
That is such an interesting place. Yeah, you're ahead of it. What's going to happen? You're ahead of it, but not because you were trying to be ahead of anything. It's just...
Yeah, well, and then it sort of, it's been an interesting thing to figure out, especially now where, yes, I think that came from a place of feeling like in however many decades, people will really look back on this as a really interesting career and in the way that we think about some of the great artists of all time. But I was like, first and foremost, I was just like, there are more amazing songs here than people recognize. It wasn't quite in the way where it's like the community and the way that people have this very, very intense parasocial relationship with her and what all of that means. Like, that's not primarily what I was trying to speak to. And now, and like that has morphed too. As the lore and everything has like taken on such a new dimension.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. Like, why is it? And you said, I wrote this down. You said, I'm a typical Taylor Swift fan. I think that has to do with why she's as big as she is. Like, I like, what makes you say that you're a typical Taylor Swift fan?
Well, it's even an interesting question because I'm now going to contradict myself and say that like there sort of isn't a typical Taylor Swift fan because there are literally 3 generations of Taylor Swift fans.
Right.
But in terms of being someone who was a young woman right at the moment when she started her breakout, when she was still primarily, working out of Nashville and at least country adjacent, it was this... There really hadn't been a lot of artists who were succeeding like as young women, speaking primarily to young women. Mm-hmm. And then there was this like 2006, 7, 8. It was like Taylor Swift, High School Musical, early like Miley, Hannah Montana. Yeah. There was this real kind of burst of artists and networks that realized there was a huge market for that. And then a big part of that is that we were the first real sort of social media generation. So if you're Taylor, like she would go around on MySpace and respond to people who posted about her music and say, hey, I hope you'll vote for me for this thing. Or, hey, I hope you'll call this radio station. And when you build on that for like 2 decades, practically, it does create a fairly intense relationship.
Well, I think, it's funny. I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not a Taylor Swift hater. I like her music. I think she's great. Like, I have a good friend who's like the biggest Taylor Swift fan. Like, he's into it, and he's like a straight married dude, and like he's into all the things you're talking about, and him and I kind of go back and forth on it. And the one thing I think those 3 generations have in common is that they see themselves as Taylor Swift. I think Taylor Swift sings from the perspective of I've said this, I was looking for the tweet earlier while we were talking. I tweeted, I was like, she's the 3rd hottest girl in the cool group in high school. Someone who's known but feels unseen. So she has problems, but no one would really let her have no one would call them real problems. They would boy troubles, and I'm trying to get through life, and life is harder than people will ever let me say out loud. but these are my problems. And I think 3 generations of women could see themselves as the high school version of Taylor and what she's singing about.
Totally. Well, and I think there's like always this disconnect where, like, even if you think about the 2009 VMAs, the Kanye thing, I think a big part of the sort of fallout of that and why it was so intense was that you had these 2 groups of people who were not understanding each other, were not talking to each other, and one group of those people was like, what is the fucking deal with Taylor Swift? Like, here's this, she arrives at this awards show in a gilded horse-drawn carriage. She's singing these songs that are like, she's cheer captain, I'm on the bleachers. Like, there's not a person at her high school or any high school in America that wouldn't get down on one knee and beg for concert tickets or to hang out with her, or like, how do these 2 things go together? And therefore it must be disingenuous. It's, you know, even if the means were indelicate, she deserves to be kind of taken down a peg. This is a good thing. And then for a lot of the fans, it's so intense in the other direction because it's like, okay, but I don't have that type of power. And if I feel like these songs are about me and they're still true of me, like I'm not at the VMAs in a horse-drawn carriage, then the portion of the, you know, authenticity is like the most annoying word and overused word in descriptions of how people relate to artists. But like that still exists between the artist and the fan. And then people who aren't within that relationship are like, what the fuck is going on here? This makes no sense. And I think that like that's in part why that got, to me, that's why that got so heated.
No, I think that's very well put, because it's like the authenticity that is, you know, you say you sing a song about welcome to New York while living in Nashville, and you've been here 5 minutes, and what makes you a real New Yorker is like an actual conversation people have here, you know, like you go, what the fuck? But that is every woman who moved to New York.
Welcome to New York was maybe not perfectly executed.
Well, I do think that is the exact example that like kind of like makes my version of like why people defend. She's speaking for so many people. I have met, do you know how I'm 39? Do you know I go around the country, the audience that comes to my show is 26 to 45 female. And you know how many women tell me about when they used to live in New York? And oh my God, and they'd name a restaurant, a club, and a bar they went to, and they talk about it as if they were Samantha on Sex and the City. And I'm like, you must have grew up in the city. And they're like, no, I would live there for a year. And it's like, that's Taylor. That's welcome to New York to me. Like, again, we all do these things. We're all living in the key of me. We're telling, you know, we're the star of our own movie. I think Taylor is the song to that movie for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, and again, like, this sort of, it's been an interesting year in pop music in general because we sort of finally have some real newcomers. But
sorry to interrupt, we're going to put a pin in that because this is my next question to you, okay? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, all I was going to say is just like, there were a number of years, and I'm sure a lot of this has to do with COVID, but there were a number of years where the people who were at the top and who were taking up most of the space and the attention, they were like Taylor and Beyonce and people who were working into their second decade, like well into their second decade, which is not historically, like pop stardom is a young person's game.
Right.
And there's something cool about that because often what happens is, you know, it's like dating Leo, you turn 26 and it's all over. But it like knocked things out of equilibrium a little bit because it makes these artists feel so ubiquitous. And if you're not a huge fan, sort of inescapable.
Right.
Because they've just been around for so long.
And then you have to have the strong opinion, you have to have the hot take, you have to take them down, all that stuff. Before we get moving along, I want to ask you about the other pop stars. Nora Princiotti, go check out every single album. Go check out the NFL show on The Ring. I listen to the NFL show. I love that show. It's just you haven't been on it the last couple of weeks.
I have recalibrated the balance of my culture output and my football output, but I'm every Wednesday.
That's the one you're on.
Yeah.
I always love you on that show. Great football show, great like what's going on in the league show. You've got holiday parties coming up. Keep your hygiene on point with Lumi. Lumi is the whole body deodorant that's going to keep you smelling incredible from head to toe for up to 72 hours. Okay, I'm a Lumi user. I would describe their smells as delicious. There is a coconut one that like I want to eat it, which is gross, but also like that's how good it smells. 72-hour odor protection. I'm sitting here smelling pretty okay, so like I can speak to that. And you can use it on your armpits, your feet, your belly button, or even your butt crack. Wherever you're trying to eliminate odor, Lumi's got you covered. It's great. I'm a huge fan of Lumi. They've been a sponsor here for a while. They have a starter pack. That's where I would start my Lumi journey. Lumi starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Like new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with my exclusive code. When you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that's over 40% off their starter pack. So use code FEATHER15. That's FEATHER15 for 15% off your first purchase at LumiDeodorant.com. That's code FEATHER15 at LumiDeodorant.com. Support the show. Tell them we sent you. LumiDeodorant.com, code FEATHER15. Also, MeUndies, you have a pair of underwear that you're dealing with. It's at the end of the rotation. You only put it on when everything's in the wash. How about you do yourself a favor and get rid of that underwear? I'm giving you permission. You're worth it. You are a good person. You do well at your job. You deserve to have end of the rotation underwear that feels like it's the front of the rotation underwear. And the copy I'm looking at talks about lounge season. I have the lounge pants. They are a treat. I would call them a treat. You know when you go to the fridge and you have a little ice cream pop at the end of your day when you've been healthy? I would compare these lounge pants to that sweet treat. The underwear is great. The lounge pants are great. I wear the lounge pants, and we're in lounge season. It's lounge season, baby. Kick off lounge season with MeUndies and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/feather. Promo code feather. That's MeUndies.com/feather. Promo code feather for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. All of the deals that we have are in the description of this episode. Here with Nora Princiotti. Nora, okay. Now I want to get into my theory.
Okay, I'm excited.
We have this new group of pop stars, and I think they are wonderful. The other night, I was on TikTok, and I got on Charli XCX, her concert videos. Have you seen her concert videos?
I'm so sorry to be the one to do this too. It is XCX.
And I typed it XIX in when I asked you to come on. I'm an idiot. Okay, listen, I shouldn't know. Okay,
I'm not here to Roman numeral shame.
No. I've gotten it wrong many times. I was at Betcha's. We were taping podcasts in there, and I got made fun of for like 10 minutes for not knowing what the Roman numeral, whatever it is. Okay, I think she's unbelievable. Have you seen these TikToks from her concert?
Yes.
What do you think of those? What is your?
This is actually an incredible meeting, like sort of worlds trying to understand each other, because I'm sitting here like, yeah, what do you mean? Like, what's happening at the Charli XCX show? Like people doing the Apple dance?
No, it's just her concert. It is like a rave. It is like you went to the hottest. It actually looks like, and I am getting chills talking about it, because I was like, I literally thought to myself, do I have to go to a Charli XCX I got it wrong when I said it to myself. What it looks like, and it's strobe lighting, and you'll probably get it. Do you go on TikTok?
Yeah.
You'll probably now get it. Like your phone will hear us.
No. I get it. I am so indoctrinated that I'm like, yeah, there's strobe lights at the Charli XCX show.
No, I'm not indoctrinated. I looked at it, and so the Apple dance, I saw the Apple dance. The funniest video of all time is the woman who created the Apple dance getting her video ruined at the concert by the other woman who's trying to get involved. And you have a hyper theater kid woke audience who's trying to be nice to this woman who like ruined the video, but they're also being like, doesn't she know? Like it is a fun thing to watch them be mean to this woman who interrupted the video while also trying to not bully her. It's a very weird world to like peek into. The concerts, though, there's one from Seattle, and so I've seen videos from now all of her stops, and it's like a strobe light playing, and the audience looks like it is what I would imagine to be, and I don't even know what this is, but what I think it to be is the hottest nightclub in London at 6 a.m. Like, that's what the concert looks like. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, there was Charli is engaged.
I'm asking you also to please teach me what I don't know here, because I just didn't know that this is what it was.
Kid. She is like a downtown club kid, and she's engaged to George from the 1975.
Okay. No knowledge of him, but go ahead.
Do you have knowledge of Matty Healy?
He's the guy that dated Taylor Swift and
very
got
briefly,
in trouble.
yeah,
He went on Come Town or something.
Then,
I mean, this is where it crosses into my world, the comedy world, where like I only heard about his controversy because he went on a comedy podcast and he tried to it seemed as though he was trying to keep up and it got him in trouble.
Yeah, and Matty's a troll. He's not a bad.
Okay.
He's actually like if you are familiar enough with the 1975 to have a reasonable enough spidey sense for when it's a bit and when it's not, which is admittedly a high bar to clear.
Okay.
He's not as bad of a guy as sometimes he comes across, but like he's a troll.
Okay.
Great band. But he asked Charli, but like, okay, this guy is the front man of a rock band.
Right.
So presumably his nightlife experiences are significant. And Charli did an interview, she with Zane Lowe, I think recently, where she was saying that Matty was texting her being like, are you partying as hard on your tour as it looks like? And she was kind of like, yeah, babe. So they're having fun. She is kind of like, I mean, she's obviously an artist, and she's a pop star, she's a singer, she works in her own songs, but she's also a DJ.
Right.
And I think that's like very kind of centered in the brat of it all, because anytime she's released this stuff, she's essentially done a set and just played the record for people and kind of leaned into that. And I think that's carrying over to the show. But she's also like, she has always had this very underground club kid audience where like people throw poppers on stage at her. And
so this is what I was trying to get. This is kind of my theory is like, I think Taylor Swift. So the way I look at it, when I was watching these Charli XCX videos, and it's like this club and poppers getting thrown on stage and drug culture and 6 a.m. DJ sets.
It's like the revival of indie sleaze or whatever. Like it's some of that.
Right. So I think and now you see her getting very popular. Chapel Roan getting very popular. You have Sabrina Carpenter getting very popular. Olivia Rodrigo. I would put those four as like the four horsemen of the Taylor Swift apocalypse, because I really do believe Taylor Swift is who women are, and these four women are who they dress up to be when they go out on a Saturday night. And they choose each version based on where they're going. Sabrina Carpenter being the glam version of yourself. Chapel Roan being the maybe I'm going to get with a woman version of myself. The Charli XCX being the gonna do a little bump tonight version of myself. Then Olivia Rodrigo being the high school angsty version of myself. Like this is because when women go out, like when I'm dressed like now, is 10% away from what I'm going to look like when I go out. You have this thing where women go from like hamper mode to I'm going out mode, makeup on, where you become like a different person, and it seemingly, and you're going to like be this personality. So like this is where I see the popularity of these women and who's at these concerts. It's like, I'm going to let this freak flag fly tonight. What do you think of this thought? I don't know. Do I sound like a piece of shit?
It's an interesting concept. I do think like Olivia Rodrigo to me is like deeply in the Taylor lineage, and they've had beef is too strong, but like they've had sort of back and forth in terms of
I'm coming in clean on their relationship. I don't know of the beef, so that's probably why I don't have that.
But Olivia Rodrigo sort of fundamentally is a singer-songwriter who's writing songs about her life. And she is to some degree naming some names, and she to me exists on a, like, there is a line and Taylor Swift is somewhere and Olivia Rodrigo is somewhere else on that line, but they're doing something sort of fundamentally similar in a way where it, like, the storytelling and the sort of confessional element of it is really central to what people respond to. Sabrina Carpenter is an interesting one where she, like, the Short and Sweet, the album that just came out, that's her 6th album. It's the first one that's like really popped, but it's her 6th album. And
I had no idea.
Yeah. No, she was like a Disney kid. And she used to do this thing that was like, she used to make songs that were very Taylor Swift, and she had a guitar and she was telling these sort of emotional stories. And the album before this one, it had a fair amount of that, but then it had these 3, like Nonsense, which is the one where she always does the outro that's kind of dirty, and then Feather. These kind of like, just like poppier, less, like songs where it's more about the hook and getting stuck in your head than I'm going to spill my guts out to you and try to make you like feel something and get to know me. And those ended up being the songs that clicked. And then I think they did a lot more of that on, like, that's that me espresso. The point is not to be like, someone broke my heart and I'm going to tell you everything about it. And I was in the kitchen with the scarf and all of that. Like, she's not doing that anymore.
But also, it seems to be that she's going for a certain look with this album. Like, her look.
But do you think that, like, I don't think that her look is similar to Charli's.
No, that's my point. I think her look is glam. That is, I'm going to the cotillion. I'm going to the prom. Charli
sort of like
is pinup, right? This old world 1950s waiting for my guy to come home from the war. Then you have Charli, which is like sweaty nightclub. We haven't showered in a while. I don't give a shit. And that's my point of like the avatars. Like, these are like headspaces that when and you look at like when like I just look in awe of women getting dressed up for a night, and like you see like this whole process of like what you're going for and like who you're trying to be. Like, and Halloween is this week. This will come out the week after Halloween, but like Halloween is like that special night where you can be this different thing or this version of yourself that you never get to be. I think like these women kind of give permission to the Taylor Swifts of the world, who is the more like, the more, the broader spectrum of a woman who everyone sees themselves through. And then Charli XCX is like, yeah, but sometimes I do a bump at a club at 6 a.m. I'm not always Taylor.
It's more, here's what I think it is. It's more like, I'm searching for the word. It's like exuberant or outward. It is like, I don't even think like, to me, it's not about sort of like trying on different looks, but it is all, it all gives the impression that you're like out of the house. You're going out.
Right.
You're having a good time. You're sort of out in the world, where one thing that I do think that Taylor does, not exclusively herself, but does a lot herself, and definitely the whole generation of artists who, you know, came on her heels a little bit, definitely took from her, is this very, like, often you'll hear it sort of called like bedroom pop, where it's like you get the sense that someone is writing this song sitting on the floor in their bedroom, and it's kind of diaristic. And even if it is a pop song, it's not for the club, and it's not really for dancing.
Right.
And most of the like later 2010s and early 2020s, that was pretty dominant. And that's Taylor. It's also Lorde. It's any of the sort of like Phoebe Bridgers, Boy Genius. Like, there's a lot of that.
It's like the music you'd listen to on a Friday night where the person you'd want to go out with didn't really make that call or that plan. You know,
it's just chill. Yeah, it's more.
Yeah.
It's more like pensive and chill. And then whether it's the Sabrina version or the Charli version, or like, you know, Gaga's coming back,
right,
and I think may end up sort of feeding into this too. You're out of the house.
I love this.
You might be doing 9 different things, but you are out of the house. And it's a lot of it harkens, I think, to like, there's that John Mulaney joke about how like all of the songs are about how you only have tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is like 2011. Like 2009 to 2011 was like the Black Eyed Peas, early Kesha,
right,
early Gaga, and everything was basically just like,
tonight's the night, Mazel Tov. Yeah,
we only have tonight. Like, we're gonna drink tonight. We're gonna have fun tonight. We're all gonna do, and like, culture is cyclical, and I do think that we are in one of those moments again.
This is wonderful. I'm so happy you could chat this out with me, because this was on my mind. I saw you post about the pop stars. You had a post on Instagram about like the different pop stars that were in the world, and I was like looking at that, and I was like, these Charli XCX videos were like wowing me. Wow,
you
couldn't have been more floored.
You need to go look up though, is she has posted a bunch of videos where she is desperately trying to get her fiance to do the Apple dance.
Okay,
and
I think I've seen.
He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to. So she's always like secretly videotaping the two of them. She's like, George, do the Apple dance, please. And he's like says something really out of pocket, and then he's like, "Are you recording this?" And it's good. It's good stuff. I encourage everyone.
I'm enjoying the Charli. Now that I know her name, I'll sound less stupid. Nora, thank you for coming on. This was so fantastic. I'm so happy we did this. This was like I really wanted to talk this out, and I told my buddy my theory, and then I told the producer, I was like, I'm gonna have someone on to talk about this theory, and she literally, V, who's out there putting this all together, she's like, get your theory on tape. People will be mad about it. And I'm like, perfect. So thank you for making me sound less like a piece of shit. Because you have the knowledge. You have the lore, the history, and I'm happy we could talk this out a little bit.
Yeah, we can. I mean,
you see where I'm coming from. Where
I see where you're coming from. I'm interested in how others feel.
Me too. I will see. As most things, we'll see. Nora Princiotti. Everyone go follow on Instagram and all the social media. Every single album, the NFL show on the Ringer Network. All fantastic. We'll be back next week. Boom.